From scoring flying goals in Brawl Ball to Piper's design being cursed, these are 59 things only OGs remember in Brawl Stars.
Did you know you could finish Brawl Stars? Before rank 35, the trophy max for brawlers was 500, aka rank 20. And with fewer brawlers, players easily maxed them out and literally had nothing left to grind out in the game. Supercell responded to this by raising the max rank, but many players have still maxed out their accounts at rank 35. And some players like Pongdalong have even got individual brawlers over 3,000 trophies. My advice, maybe finish a shower instead. This next star power was so useless, it got removed just months after its release. Tin Can was a star power that gave Mr. P's Robo Porters home base 3,000 plus more health. However, while that may sound like something overpowered, it was actually quite ineffective. All it really did was provide you with a bit more cover when pushing another player, and allowed you to play a bit more aggressive. But in most situations, this had almost zero impact on who would win a fight. If you're new to the game, there's no way you know about this one. The backup mine was a gadget that allowed Tick to dash forward and place a single mine. It was introduced in March 2020, but just 1 year later, it got removed. Since placing one mine didn't have much impact and dashing didn't give advantage to Tick's gameplay, most players simply switched to Last Hurrah, and Supercell decided that there was no reason to keep it in the game. This game mode was totally broken and it drove people crazy. The objective of Lone Star was to kill the most enemies without dying. Everyone started with 2 stars and earned additional stars for killing enemies. If you died, you were reset back to 2 stars. At the end of the 2 minutes, the player with the most stars would win. While it was a fun game mode, it ended up being removed due to 2 main problems. The first was massive kill stealing issues that made the game less enjoyable, but the second problem was the high degree of luck involved in respawns, which made this game mode frustrating and inconsistent. Brawl Ball is a very simple game, yet somehow manages to be the buggiest thing on earth, because back in the day, players could use Sprout's wall to trap the ball in the net with a player, but it wouldn't be a goal. Even after the wall went away, the ball would still roll around in the net like nothing happened. Normally trying to run into your own net with a ball causes you to lose possession of it, but due to the entire net being walled off, it seems like the ball would just stay there. This game mode really needs a referee. Glitches in Brawl Stars are almost always tiny mistakes by the devs and are almost completely unnoticeable. However, this was not always the case, because in 2022, this unnamed player was playing Heist when his screen started to bug out with massive ghost items everywhere. It's unclear what caused this to happen, but it literally looked like developers were changing the game in real time. Stalling in Poison is one of the most famous late game techniques in the entire game. But what if I told you that there used to be a way to do this infinitely? Well, back in 2020, it appears a Brawl Stars YouTuber named Hawkeyes discovered a glitch that used the brief invincibility the launchpad used to give you in order to stay alive in the poison just long enough for his teammate to respawn. By doing this, they were able to stay in the poison forever, leaving the other team super confused. Have you ever met someone so bad that you think they have negative trophies? Well, for a short time, this could have actually been true, because if you won and then lost with a brawler, you could drop below 0 trophies, reaching a new low of -1 trophies, aka the best dynamic player. Did you know brawler exclusive classes used to be a thing? Back in the early days of Brawl Stars, there weren't just 7 classes, there were more. Well, technically not more classes, but super specific ones. Like, Crow wasn't an assassin, he was a toxic assassin, Mortis was a dashing assassin, and Amber? Oh, she was a straight up fire breather. But the best ones? Buzzassin. Unfortunately, this got changed to standard classes. Boring. Many players know that back in 2019, Supercell accidentally dropped an offer by giving 49 megaboxes for just 49 gems. Crazy, right? But in 2020, they did it again, offering 140 megaboxes and 300 coins for only $2. Players went wild, sharing it everywhere before Supercell pulled it from the shop. I am pretty sure someone got fired for that. Back in the day, Shelly star skin was just another default everyone had. But fast forward to today, and it's one of the rarest skins in the game. If you've got it, you're a true Brawl Stars OG, since you could only get it by creating your account in 2019 and keeping it since. Do you have it? Most players don't know that in the very early stages of Brawl Stars, players only had tab to remove controls. These controls were incredibly frustrating, and trying to move your brawler around the map took way too long. Even worse, the controls were often imprecise and wouldn't even move the brawler to the right spot, leading it to quickly be replaced with today's much better controls. Back in 2019, there used to be a super op star power that players hated. It was called Extra Life, and it would literally give 8-bit an extra life, allowing players to have 2 lives in game modes that have no respawning. This gave you a significant advantage, and by camping until the final zone would almost always give you a win. This made Extra Life a literal cheat code to winning that caused everyone else to shatter their screen. One of the craziest glitches to happen recently is one that actually let you fly in the air and sit above your enemies for as long as you wanted. By using Charlie's cocoon gadget on top of the launch pad and timing it so that the cocoon finishes right when you're in the air, you'd burst from the cocoon but wouldn't fall down to the ground. You just float there instead. Something similar could also be done with Doug, where dying and triggering the revive mid-air would also allow you to stay floating. Brawl Stars Godzilla update brought countless new glitches to the game, especially in the City Smash game mode, but none of them are quite as well known and powerful as the Otis gadget glitch. By playing Otis and using his first gadget while turning into Godzilla, the gadget would actually glitch out and trigger on every single attack you made. This meant you could not only kill your enemies much quicker, but also destroy buildings in a single shot, allowing you to win almost 3 times quicker than you would by playing normally. Did you know that robots used to fall from the sky? Sounds ridiculous, right? But in the game Bot Drop, which was 3v3, you and your team would literally have to face raining robots. And every time you take one down, it drops a bolt. Once you collect 8 bolts, your team wins. Now, here's where it gets interesting. 12 robots spawned each match, but if neither team hit the bolt count in time, a massive robot would spawn, which on kill dropped 3 bolts. Unfortunately, this mode never came back that popular and was ultimately removed. Back in the beta days of Brawl Stars, you could play co-op. This was essentially a game mode where you and your friends could play against a team of bots. And asking to play co-op was really just a way to tell your friends that they sucked. However, the game mode was so unpopular that Supercell had no choice but to remove it. Luckily, today we have friendly battles, which have so many more options and are much more fun. I love friendly battles! If you wanted to guarantee yourself a win in OG Heist, then picking Darryl was a genius move. OG Darryl used to be able to move 23 tiles using his barrel roll super, which is literally more than 3 times its length today. Because of this, many players use Darryl to move their way across the entire map and just shoot down the safe in Heist. But because he was insanely overpowered, Supercell later changed Darryl's roll capacity to 7 tiles. How did Supercell think that this was a good idea? Everyone knows that money is the best gift of all time, so in the early days of Brawl Stars, Supercell would actually give out coins as a reward for playing matches. Coin boosters used to cost 20 gems and increased coins received by 50% for 7 days, while Coin Doubler cost 50 gems and doubled the next 1,000 coins received. This works similarly to the way that token boosters do today, but coins used to be the only resource for leveling up your brawlers. However, this was removed during 2017 as Supercell had made plans to rework the game's entire currency system. Speaking of currencies, most people don't actually know about this forgotten currency for special events. Players needed tickets to enter Big Game, Robo Rumble, and Boss Fight. You'd get 5 tickets whenever a new event opened, and the more tickets you used, the more tickets you earned. In Robo Rumble, using the maximum 20 tickets could get you up to 620 tokens. But in 2020, tickets were removed and the game modes were reworked. Skins in Brawl Stars look awesome, but buying too many can drain your account fast. Luckily, in 2021, Supercell accidentally released a bunch of skins that players love. Well, not really. You see, a strange glitch in the game's rendering code caused every brawler to be fully black everywhere except for their eyes. This surprisingly looked really cool on most of the brawlers, but some weren't as lucky. Like Spike, who doesn't even have eyes, and because of that, literally turned into a shadow. Remember how El Primo shoots bullets from his fist? Yeah, me neither. But years ago, this was actually sometimes the case, as a rare glitch allowed El Primo to access Darryl's recoiling rotator gadget, and he would spin around shooting bullets from his bare hands. Well, El Primo's magical abilities aren't limited to just magical bullet hands. He also used to have the power to instantly win games of Robo Rumble by just using his super once. On Robo Rumble maps with a large enough rock wall, it was actually possible to use El Primo's super to trap yourself inside the rock. And since the robots couldn't figure out how to get to you, they just stand there doing absolutely nothing, not even bothering to attack the safe. leave. And after just standing in the box for a while, the game would just end as a win. If you were an 8-bit main back in the day, you probably remember how overpowered he used to be. But did you know he had his own secret minigame? By selecting him in the menu and pressing his buttons just right, you could trigger a 6-second countdown. And boom, you'd be sent to Supercell's official site to play Project Laser, where you flew and shot enemies in space with 8-bit. Honestly, I think Supercell put more effort into this than they did into Brawl Stars itself. Many players think the Godzilla event was a genius new idea by developers, but it's actually not. It's just a remastered version of Brawl Stars' old Super City Rampage mode. Back then, it was inspired by the classic Godzilla movie, with 3 brawlers teaming up to stop one massive monster that wanted to demolish the entire city. However, it wasn't as popular as Supercell hoped and was removed shortly after. But after a couple years, Supercell decided to reinvent the game a bit, changing the name and some of the mechanics in the game itself, turning it into a much more popular mode. Back in 2021, Power Play was a limited mode where players could play 3 matches per day and earn points to unlock mega boxes or skins. And by playing perfectly, players could earn a max of 1,386 points per season. However, the rewards were way too expensive, like the gold mecha bow skin that cost 50,000 points, meaning players had to grind 36 perfect seasons just to unlock it. The grind was so tedious that most players simply just gave up. Supercell later replaced Power Play with the Power League, but then replaced with Ranked as we know today. Grinding Power Play was literally a full-time job. Can I go home now? Elixir is a resource that exists in Clash of Clans and Clash Royale, but believe it or not, it used to be in Brawl Stars too. Before Power Points were introduced, Elixir was used for upgrading brawlers. And when upgrading with Elixir, you had the option to upgrade brawlers' health, damage, or super attack. But did you know Supercell actually broke its company law for this next feature? Ads in Brawl Stars used to double coins, mostly promoting other Supercell games. They were removed to comply with Supercell's policies, yet the game still saw healthy profits. Could this be considered pay to win? We already know Brawl Ball used to be super glitchy, because on top of having crazy illegal scoring strategies, sometimes the ball would just get fully stuck in the water. When this happened, players were completely unable to move the ball and simply had to accept their fate. But if you were a pro, it was actually possible to use this to your advantage by getting a lead and simply making it impossible for the other team to score. Did you know that back in 2022, Frank used to hit it from the back? Okay, maybe I worded that poorly, but by spinning Frank around extremely fast and then activating his super, sometimes the game would glitch out and cause the animation to look forwards while the ability was dealing damage behind him. And while this could be a bit useful for tricking players into getting hit, let's be honest, nobody bothered to use this trick. If you're an OG, you probably remember seeing leaks of this Minigunner. It was an overpowered brawler which could one-shot the entire map. Okay, maybe not that overpowered, because it was actually a placeholder for Pam while she was still an unfinished brawler, which leakers confirmed in the game files. The leak showed an old bull model which walked really oddly and could shoot like Pam. He was literally able to shoot tons of bullets with his tiny shotgun, leading to players thinking a Minigunner was going to be added. I've never been more disappointed. Brawl Stars used to have chips as currency. No, not those chips. Chips were a separate currency that looked like poker chips and could get you any brawler you wanted for a certain amount of chips. You could get these by opening brawl boxes or simply by getting duplicate brawlers. But these were eventually removed, and anyone who had leftover chips received an equivalent value in gems. Did you know Brawl Stars changed its tutorial multiple times? Probably not. But between 2018 and 2020, the tutorial changed 3 times, with these being mostly just map tweaks. But the 2017 tutorial was strange. It taught players to hide in bushes with waypoints and had you defeat bulls and dynamites. If they were Edgars instead, I might have actually played the tutorials. There was a wild glitch in Brawl Stars where you could swap star powers and gadgets between brawlers. I think I've mentioned this before, but it gets even crazier, like giving Mortis Coiled Snake to any brawler or bull using Poco's Da Capo to heal teammates by attacking them. But my absolute favorite combo was El Primo throwing fire punches with Brock's incendiary star power. Gadgets were also swappable, but Supercell quickly patched this this in Season 3 update. But everyone loved this star power. I'm just kidding. Pat on the back was a star power for Jean and was arguably one of the worst and most hated star powers when it was introduced, because it clashed with Jean's super, which was meant to pull in an enemy, making Pat on the back ineffective and unpopular. This star power allowed Jean to heal a friendly brawler for 2000 HP. However, it was extremely situational, which is why it was removed just 3 weeks later. Did you know back in 2021, there was actually a game mode that was so unpopular that it got removed after only 1 week? Womp womp. Released in July 2021, it started with 2 teams of 2 players, aiming to steal the trophy until the end of the game. It got discontinued because it was a boring game mode overall that was not popular. Players were just using speedy and tanky brawlers that were way too overpowered to compete with. This star power was the first one to ever get removed from the game. Of course, I'm talking about Poco's Swan song. It was one of the original star powers that came out in the star power update. Nobody used it because it was basically useless. The whole point was to give someone 1000 HP with a super annoying song, which didn't benefit you in any situation. So yeah, this star power really sucked.
Did you know that back in 2017, there was a secret overpowered way to score in Brawl Ball? Instead of dribbling the ball just as usual, brawlers who jumped during their super were actually able to pick up the ball during their jump and literally fly into the net with it. Not even Messi could defend this. But if you try this nowadays, the ball will simply get stuck on the boxes and leave you sitting in the net looking like a complete noob. However, this wasn't the only glitch in OG Brawl Ball, as back in the day when a player scored, the brawlers would sometimes respawn in the same positions they were in from before the goal was scored. This would often lead to super intense situations and cause many angry players to spam Supercell until this was finally fixed. One of the craziest Brawl Stars glitches of all time has got to go to the star power swap glitch from 2019. By switching brawlers before a friendly battle and starting the match immediately after, players were actually able to load into the game with a different character's star power. And as you can imagine, this bug was incredibly overpowered, leading to situations such as Colt leaving a Brock incendiary after every single bullet, Mortis being able to do fire damage, and even allowing any brawler to attack and kill their teammates by using Poco's star power. Unfortunately, this was only ever available in friendly battles and has since been patched out for being way too overpowered. Did you know Piper was in a boxing match? I'm just kidding. But that's what players first thought when they saw Piper's old reworked profile icon. She literally had missing teeth and people immediately started making memes about it. Fortunately, the community did enough bullying for Supercell to take Piper to the dentist and add some teeth to her icon. The goal used to be an actual feature on the map, making it super easy for trolls to abuse. For some reason, Supercell decided to leave space behind the goals and make it the spawn point for players. But what they didn't expect is for players to take the ball behind the goal and spam kick and pass, making it impossible for the opposing team to take the ball. After Supercell found out about this, however, they moved goals to the edge of the map. Penny's Captain Compass was indisputably one of the most useless gadgets in Brawl Stars ever. When activated, it would shoot 5 bombs around you anywhere on the map. This sounds super good and in theory should have been a solid defense gadget, but on top of being super buggy, the delay between placing the cannon and the bombs actually landing was quite long, making it useless in many situations, and therefore got removed in just 5 months after being introduced. But there was actually another Penny gadget that got removed after her rework. The Pocket Detonator was a slightly better ability for her cannon, where it would detonate itself. This explosion dealt damage to nearby players and could even destroy walls. However, this was pretty much useful only in close range scenarios against assassins, making it very ineffective against most brawlers. And of course, we can't forget Penny's removed star power, Balls of Fire. Penny's cannon bombs now have a splash fire effect as a passive ability. Additionally, the new star power, Master Blaster, makes her cannon explode on deployment, dealing 1,372 damage and knocking back enemies. Now that's an upgrade. Have you ever wished that you could turn into a Walmart Leon? Well, this used to actually be possible, as in 2021, Brawl Stars devs announced on their Twitter that many players were experiencing an invisible player glitch, but didn't know how to solve it. However, this wasn't actually that useful, as players would still have their shadow, name, and health bar all visible. Many YouTubers such as Ray decided to test out this glitch and actually really liked it. Maybe Brawl Stars should bring it back as a custom skin. Everyone hates dying to Mortis, and I don't blame you. I mean, the guy literally goes to the barber and tells him to give him the level 1 barbarian special. But a few years ago, a strange glitch actually made Mortis useless. See, this glitch caused the bats to simply float around him and glow green, and they wouldn't even attack the opponent. This may be the most useless glitch in Brawl Stars history.
Did you know that Brawl Stars was actually meant to be played vertically? Well, sort of. You see, in the beta version of the game, the screen was actually vertical, even on devices like iPads. However, when the game was launched globally, it was changed to be horizontal, although some players still managed to find a way to glitch it back to vertical, which I talked about in my last video. Boxes have to be the most famous removed item from recent years. Opening boxes gave you a chance to get coins, gems, XP doublers, brawlers, and more. However, developers decided to remove them in late 2022, instead being replaced by a road to unlock new brawlers. But ever since this update, players have been complaining non-stop and literally begging for boxes to be added back. So in June 2024, devs added mega boxes back to the game in the classic Brawl event update. Unfortunately, this was a limited time event and mega boxes have once again been removed. Please add them back. If we're talking about speed, OG Mortis had to be the fastest brawler ever. His dash used to be just as long as his current star power, Coiled Snake, but at the time he didn't have to wait for his bar to be fully filled. What's even crazier is he didn't even have one at all, and you could just dash whenever you felt like it. This made him completely unfair in every Brawl Ball match. They should have just removed him from the game. Do you remember these bumpers in Brawl Ball? They were introduced in the stunt show season and bounced the ball a ton, making for some tricky players. Some players use them to get the ball stuck, while others discovered that cacti shared the same code as bumpers, bypassing map makers' restrictions. This led to maps where the ball would bounce endlessly. Supercell eventually fixed this, but it makes me wonder, are cacti bouncy? No, they are definitely not. Did you know there was a time when you could blow up the battlefield in Brawl Stars? These explosive TNT boxes were exclusive to the heist mode. Just hit a TNT and boom! It would deal 2,000 damage and destroy everything nearby. And although TNTs are gone, their legacy lives on through Easter eggs on many gem grab maps where you can still see these, despite being unable to interact with them. But if there was an award for the most clickbaity gadget in Brawl Stars, it would have gone to Piper's auto-aim gadget. This gadget rapidly shot 4 tiny bullets which dealt 500 damage each. However, despite their name, they weren't auto-aiming bullets and would literally shoot like any other gun in the game. And unless someone chased you in a straight line, you wouldn't do much damage at all. Thank you, Supercell, for clickbaiting us with a gadget. Ugh.
Sometimes Carl's single ammo mechanic just feels super slow. Why can't he just get 3 shots like almost everyone else has? Well, with the help of glitches, he can, or at least he could before this got patched out. By shooting his pickaxe out on a teleporter and teleporting away before it came back, Carl used to just reload a new one even while the original one is still coming back. After doing this a few times, you could have up to about 3 pickaxes, but unfortunately, they would destroy themselves if you weren't firing constantly. Ever felt like the boss fight is just too hard on the later difficulties? Wouldn't everything be so much easier if the boss just didn't chase you down as fast? Well, how about him not chasing you down at all? Back in 2020, when El Primo's suplex gadget was brand new, it would actually stun the boss in boss fight permanently after just one use. This absolutely overpowered strategy allowed players to make it to crazy difficulties by abusing this glitch like insane 15 or even higher. Sadly, this was patched out very quickly as it was just way too strong. Back in 2023, when bling was first added to the game, the developers accidentally miscoded the spray purchase button to look empty. For a very short time, players were able to buy any spray in the shop that they wanted for what appeared to be 0 bling, leading to many players buying tons and tons of sprays under the impression that they were free. However, the glitch was only visual, as it turned out that the sprays were actually being paid for with gems. Most players know that Brawl Stars used to be vertical during its beta release, but this was changed in early 2018, around 9 months before the game's global release. However, there was still a way to make your game vertical. Well, sort of. As for whatever reason, it seems turning certain phones vertically will cause the game to glitch out and show you the entire map. But in most cases, this unfair advantage will disappear the second you queue into a game. Did you know that buying a Brawler only box used to actually be possible? Yep, you heard that right. You would get Brawlers of different rarities based on your luck. However, this was replaced by Brawler offers, which is a lot cooler because now you at least know what you're getting. What do you think? Should they bring back Brawler only boxes? Back in 2019, there was actually a bonus currency which you could use to open Brawl boxes and get valuable items. Star tokens were a special kind of token that could be obtained by winning an event for the first time whenever a match change happened. You could exchange 10 star tokens for one big box, which contained many valuable items in the game. Star tokens were removed when Brawl Pass was introduced, but they actually returned in 2024, which many of you probably know.